What happens when a heart is shattered young and never gets the chance to heal? Beth Dutton wasn't born cold, life made her that way. She walks through fire without blinking, not because she's fearless, but because pain became her home. And before Rip ever touched her hand, Beth had already built walls so high that even love couldn't see in. This is not a fairy tale. It's the story of a woman who became a storm. And the man who didn't run from it, Beth Dutton, is not easy. To love, she's fire, chaos, and broken glass wrapped in designer heels and sarcasm. But before anyone ever called her Rip's girl, she was just a girl who lost everything too soon. Her pain started early, losing her mother in a way that scarred her forever. And the worst part? She blamed herself. That guilt sank deep into her soul, poisoning her from the inside. Yellowstone raised her, but it didn't protect her. It hardened her, turned her sharp. People see Beth's fire and call it strength. But that fire? It came from a place of grief and anger. She turned herself into a weapon so no one could ever hurt her again. Every drink she took, every cruel word she spoke, it was her way of keeping the world at arm's length. Even when she smiled, it came with a warning. She didn't trust love. She didn't trust herself. Men came and went. None of them stayed. They couldn't handle her heat. Beth didn't ask for love. She didn't believe she deserved it. And if someone tried to get close, she pushed harder. She would rather destroy something beautiful than let herself hope. Because hope is dangerous for someone like Beth. Hope is the first step toward pain. And yet, even in all that madness, there was one person she never pushed away completely. One boy who saw her pain and never looked away. Rip Wheeler, back then. They were just kids. But even then, Beth was different with Rip. She was still wild, still angry, but around him, she wasn't alone. Rip didn't try to fix her. He didn't try to control her. He just stood there, solid, like the only rock in her storm. And that scared her more than anything, because love, real love, that meant she had something to lose. Beth ran from that. Feeling for years, she chased pain because it was familiar. She wore strength like armor. But behind her sharp tongue and fearless glare was a girl still bleeding from the past. She laughed loud and fought hard, but when no one was watching. Her silence said more than words ever could. People talk about Beth like she's dangerous, like she's cruel, but the truth is, she's a survivor. Every cruel thing she said was a shield. Every broken promise a way to protect herself. She didn't want to hurt people, she just didn't want to be hurt again. And one day Rip came back into her life not as a boy, but as a man. Strong, steady, loyal. He didn't ask her to change. He didn't flinch at her fire, he just looked at her like she was worth saving. And for the first time in her life, Beth didn't want to burn everything down. She wanted to believe, but before we get to that moment, before the soft words and the fierce loyalty, there was a Beth who stood alone, fists clenched, jaw tight, daring the world to fight her. That Beth had no idea that love was waiting. That someone could love her not despite her chaos. But because of it, she didn't believe in forever. She didn't believe in softness. But deep inside her chest, something still beat, a heart that had been broken, yes, but never stopped. And Rip, he was the only one who ever heard it. He came from nothing. No last name worth saying, no family, no future. Just dirt, fists, and silence. But from that emptiness, Rip Wheeler became the kind of man legends are whispered about. A man who never needed to speak loudly because his actions always spoke first. In a world full of wolves, Rip didn't need to howl. He just stood his ground. And the wolves backed away. Rip Wheeler didn't choose violence. Life chose it for him. At a young age, he lost everything that could have made him soft. His father was a monster who left him bloodied and full of rage. His mother taken from him in the worst way. When John Dutton found him, Rip had already seen too much darkness for a child. But that day in the barn, covered in blood and pain, Rip was given a second chance. Not a soft one, no. John Dutton didn't offer love. He offered structure, work, loyalty, and in that rough, cold world, Rip found something that made sense. he became a ranch hand, but more than that, he became the silent backbone of the Yellowstone. Every fence post, every fight, every order carried out without question, Rip was the hand that kept the heart of the ranch beating. He never complained, never wanted praise. He just did the job. The hard job, the ugly one, the kind of work that stains your soul, but Rip didn't mind. He didn't think he deserved peace anyway. There's a reason Rip never asks for anything. He doesn't believe he's owed a thing. In his eyes, being allowed to live, to serve the Duttons, to be part of something, it's already more than he ever expected. So he gives everything, his time, his blood, his loyalty. And behind those quiet eyes is a man who would kill without hesitation if it meant protecting the people he cares about. But there's one person Rip never stopped caring about. Not even for a second. Beth Dot, when they were teenagers, Rip saw something in her no one else did. Not the wild beauty on the surface, but the wounded girl underneath. And she saw something in him too, a boy who wouldn't leave, who wouldn't flinch. Even when she was at her worst. Years passed, Beth left. Rip stayed. He watched from the shadows as she fell apart and came back in pieces. But he never stopped loving her. Not even when she acted like she didn't need him, not even when she told him to stay away. Rip was the type of man who didn't walk away from what he loved. He waited, patient, silent, like a mountain, and when she came back into his life as a grown woman, Rip didn't question it. He didn't ask where she had been or why it had taken her so long. He just looked at her and said with his eyes, "I'm still here." That's the kind of love Rip gives, one that doesn't fade or flicker. One that stays lit even in the darkest places. Rip doesn't speak in grand speeches. He shows love in small, powerful ways. A look, a touch, a brutal fight to protect what's his. When he says, "I'm gonna love the hell out of you," it's not just a promise, it's a truth he's already been living. Rip's love is not soft, it's not gentle. It's the kind of love that stands between you and a bullet, and maybe that's why Beth came back. Not because Rip chased her, but because he never stopped being the man she knew could hold all her broken pieces without trying to fix them. Rip didn't want to fix Beth. He wanted to stand beside her, no matter how rough the road. In the world of Yellowstone, where betrayal and death are daily visitors, Rip Wheeler is a rare thing, dependable. He doesn't need power or money or praise. He just needs purpose, and Beth, she became that purpose. Loving her wasn't a choice, it was a fact. Rip is a man who carries the weight of the ranch, the secrets of the Dutton family and the full fire of Beth Dutton's heart, and he never once buckles. He never once runs. Because men like Rip don't need to be told what love is. They just do it, quietly, fiercely, forever. Most people search for love that feels safe, but Beth and Rip, they never wanted safety. They wanted truth, raw, unfiltered. Bloody, if it had to be. Their love didn't whisper, it roared. It didn't ask permission, it demanded to be felt. And when they finally collided again, it wasn't a reunion. It was a wildfire reigniting itself, unstoppable and unapologetic. Rip and Beth never had a soft beginning. There were no flowers, no perfect dates, no dreamy conversations under moonlight. Their love was born in pain and sharpened over time. And yet, when they met again years later, older, harder, scarred, there was no need for explanations. One look, and it was all still there, the anger, the passion, the unspoken promise. Rip belonged to Beth, and Beth, whether she admitted it or not, had always belonged to Rip, but their love wasn't romantic in the way people usually describe it. It was brutal and beautiful all at once. Beth wasn't gentle. She was vicious. When she needed to be, and Rip never asked her to be anything less. He loved her fire. He respected her rage. He didn't try to put it out, he stood in the flames with her. There were moments that proved this love was different. Moments that could have broken anyone else, but not them. Like when Beth asked Rip to kill a man not just for justice, but for her peace, and Rip didn't hesitate. Because for him, loving Beth meant taking on her war as his own. It meant doing the unthinkable without blinking. Because she was worth it. Their relationship didn't have boundaries, it had trust. Rip never questioned Beth's chaos, and Beth? She knew Rip would never leave her, no matter how cruel her words got or how damaged she felt. When she was in pain, she lashed out, and Rip, he stood still, took it. Not because he was weak, but because he was strong enough to love someone. That while their wedding wasn't planned, it wasn't even legal. Beth showed up in a gold dress with a trash bag of clothes and bruises on her face, and still, Rip looked at her like she was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. They said their vows in front of a priest dragged out of a bar, with no fancy setting and no guests. Just them, raw, real, and in that moment, it was the most honest love story Yellowstone had ever seen. When Rip told her, "I'm gonna love the hell out of you," it wasn't a line, it was a lifetime. A vow deeper than any church could bless. It meant he was going to love every broken piece of her, every scar, every scream. It meant he was going to stand beside her no matter what the world threw at them. And Beth, she believed him. For the first time in her life, she believed someone wouldn't leave. Their love was messy, violent, passionate. It didn't look pretty to outsiders, but it didn't have to. Because it was theirs. It was private, personal, powerful. When they fought hard. When they touched, it was like the world stopped spinning, and when they looked at each other, you could see it, the deep, heavy knowing that no one else would ever understand them like this. Beth didn't soften over time. Rip didn't try to change her. And that's what made them perfect. Rip gave her a place to belong, not a cage to shrink into. And Beth gave Rip something he never had, someone to protect with everything he had. Together they were chaos and calm, fury and peace, fire and earth. They didn't apologize for who they were. Not to each other, not to anyone else. Because real love, the kind that survives firestorms and years of silence, isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. About showing up, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Beth and Rip never played by the rules. Their love wasn't made to be understood, it was made to be felt. And if you were lucky enough to see it, even for a moment, you'd know. This was not just love. This was survival. This was loyalty. This was the kind of bond you don't find twice in a lifetime. Asterisk, they are not the main rulers of the ranch. They don't sit at the head of the Dutton table. But somehow, Beth and Rip are the heart of Yellowstone. Not because of titles or bloodlines, but because their love brutal, raw, and unwavering is the last honest thing in a world built on lies. When the land trembles, when the family breaks, when the battles get too loud, it's Beth and Rip who keep the soul of Yellowstone breathing. Asterisk, Yellowstone is a land of legacy, betrayal, and blood. Power is passed through pain. Trust is rare. Love is rarer. But through it all, there is one thing that never bends Beth and Rip's bond. They don't fight for money. They don't chase glory. They fight for each other, for something deeper, something sacred. In a world that constantly asks them to sacrifice everything, they refuse to sacrifice each other. John Dutton may own the land. Jamie may play politics. Case may carry the family honor. But Beth and Rip carry the emotional truth. They represent the cost of survival, the scars, the broken promises, the battles no one sees. And still, they wake up every day and choose each other again. That choice is what makes them different. That choice is what keeps the ranch human. Rip has become the right hand of Yellowstone, the one who gets his hands dirty so others don't have to. He keeps the wolves away, buries the secrets, and protects the Duttons like they're his blood. But make no mistake, his loyalty doesn't begin with the brand. It begins with Beth. She's not just his wife, she's his anchor, his reason. Without her, Rip's silence might have turned into emptiness. But with her, his quiet becomes strength. And Beth? She may be reckless, cruel, impossible to handle, but Rip makes her human again. When the world pushes her, she pushes harder. But Rip? He softens the edges, not by changing her, but by loving her exactly as she is. He makes her want to stay, to build, to be. For someone who once believed she was too broken to be loved, Rip became proof that even storms can be someone's home. Together, they remind us that love doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. You don't need candlelight dinners or grand speeches to be real. Sometimes love is showing up with bruised knuckles. Sometimes it's standing in silence after a fight and still holding her hand. Sometimes it's letting the world burn as long as she's safe. Beth and Rip don't just love each other. They survive each other, grow with each other. They hold hands in the fire and dare the flames to do their worst. They are everything Yellowstone is built on: grit, loyalty, resilience, and unlike many around them, they've never needed approval. Their love is not for show, it's not clean, it's not easy. But it is real. That's why they matter. Because in a world of shifting alliances, political games, and family wars, their bond remains untouched. You can take land, you can take power, but you can't take Beth from Rip, and you'll never take Rip from Beth. Their story is not just a subplot, it's a reminder. A reminder that love like theirs still exists. A love that says, I'll fight for you in every lifetime. A love that never asks, will you leave? Because the answer is already known. So when Rip looks at Beth and says, I'm gonna love the hell out of you, it's not just a line, it's a lifeline. The world around them might fall apart. Yellowstone might lose its name. But as long as Beth and Rip stand side by side, there's still something unbreakable left on that land. Because some love stories don't ask to be written. They carve themselves into the earth. And this one? This one's carved in fire, loyalty, and a love that never had to ask for permission.